Hello, welcome to today's video. My name is Sarah, if you haven't been here before, and I talk all things dating and relationships. It's a vast world and there's so much content out there, so if you ever have a topic, let me know, drop it in the comments below. But you can find me here pretty often. You can also find me over on Instagram at CatholicMatch as well. But today we're gonna dive into something that I think would have been so good for me to hear, but I didn't, but now you can. So it's okay. And it's some truths that I would go back and tell my single self. And I think that this is super important because I didn't come up with these on my own. I have talked to many women who are currently single, who are dating, who are married, who have been newly married, have been married for a while. So we're pulling this information from a vast amount of women, and it's really good. It's good pieces of advice. So there are so many out there, but I want to stick to 4 today. We're going to stick to 4 pieces of advice that I would tell my single self. So here we go. The first piece of advice is that a good reminder, a deep reminder, sometimes a daily reminder that not receiving attention from a boy does not mean that something is wrong with you. I think it can be a very dangerous question that we ask ourselves, and maybe we ask ourselves that a lot, of what is wrong with me that he's not paying attention to me? Like what am I doing wrong? And it's a dangerous question because if you look hard enough, you're gonna find something. And it may not be the truth. And then you're working off of something that's not true and you're tearing yourself down in the process, and he still isn't paying attention to you. And so it can be really difficult when someone doesn't reciprocate attention that we desire from them. That can be something to mourn and to grieve, especially if it's been something you've been desiring for a really, really long time. But not receiving attention from someone, anyone, does not mean something is wrong with you. It just means that their eyes are not on you, and they could have a million bazillion reasons as to why that is the truth, and we just don't know that. And it's something that's really difficult, something that's unknown and very vague, but it is a truth to hold on to. Just because someone isn't paying attention to you doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. And then kind of along the same lines, a second piece of advice that I heard so often, I would have loved to hear myself, is that if one person doesn't see me, it means that I'm invisible and no one sees me. And that is also not true. It's along the same lines as my first piece of advice, but it's a little different because I want to dive into the importance of not letting other people's opinions of you define who you are. Other people's opinions of you are going to change constantly. There are going to be different people that come in and out of your life. There are going to be the same people whose opinions change of you as you go through experiences and years in life. And if you look at yourself and study yourself based on the opinions of those around you, who you are is going to be constantly changing with the opinions changing with them, and that is exhausting. The good thing about being within the Christian faith is that we have a foundation that is unchanging, that does not rely on how others think of us or how they see us. And that is something that we need to stick onto tight, to not let go. That it can be very intriguing, very sneaky to simply judge ourselves based on how others see us, but it's a losing battle because it's gonna keep changing. It's never gonna stay the same. And if that reflects on how we think of ourselves too, that's exhausting, and there's too much going on in your life, girl. You don't need that. You want stability, and you'll find it within your identity of who you are in the eyes of the Lord, not in who you are in the eyes of other people. My third piece of advice is that if you have to change or think you have to change for a guy to like you, he no longer likes you, which defeats the purpose and makes everything moot at that point. You need to pretend to be a certain person, pretend to have a certain aspect of yourself, maybe be a lot quieter because you think that you know, this person wants a quiet woman, or to have different interests than you naturally do. Maybe you want to you know, put some of your passions aside because you think he'll judge you for it. He may, but then you're hiding your passions, and then he doesn't really like you, and that just defeats the entire purpose. And so the third piece of advice that I heard from so many women is, especially the ones that are newly married, that have been dating for so long and are newly married, and they finally found their person, and they were the #1 category of women that said, if you have to change any part of yourself, he no longer likes you, and then that the whole relationship is pointless at that stage. That to wait for someone who likes every single part of you is way better than to perhaps lessen the journey and to just jump into marriage with someone who doesn't know the real you. Which leads me to my fourth point of advice, that it is better to be single than to be in a half-hearted relationship, or in a relationship that just holds friction or not the entire truth. I have said this before in a past video. I've heard it before by women that I really admire, and it is that I have never heard a woman in a relationship, even if her personal dating timeline has been pushed by years and years and years, say that she wishes she had settled and gotten a relationship earlier instead of remaining single and true to herself. That as hard as those single years were, as hard as they are, as grueling and as full of just deep wanderings as singleness is, they would have never said, I wish I would have gone back and settled. I wish I just would have cut that time of my life short and just found someone as easily as I could and just called it a day. These women, they look at these years of hardship, which maybe aren't fair. Maybe you feel like you don't deserve it. Maybe you don't. But they look at those years of hardship as something that they would have still, at the end of the day, rather gone through because they finally found someone that was the right person for them. These are pieces of advice that I wish I would have heard when I was single, because I didn't get a chance to hear a lot of other single women speak about singleness, and I didn't get a chance to talk to women who were, you know, in relationships, serious ones, or newly married, or have been married for a long time, talk about the goodness of the hardship, which sounds like an oxymoron, but I promise it exists. The goodness of the hardship of singlehood. And so I hope that one of these helped you today. Let me know what you think, or what you would add, or what you want to hear. Where are you struggling that you want someone to speak into? Because I will go there. You and I can go there together. But in the meantime, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment below if you want me to add anything more. What would you add to the list of 4, or replace, or what do you think about the 4 that I brought up with a bunch of other women? I want to know what you're thinking and going through. Especially because, like I said at the beginning, we go through all things dating, relationships. It's you and me. Let's go through it together. In the meantime, I will see you in our next video.